disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. So there's a saying that goes, what goes around comes around. And while we were discussing the ban of TikTok in the United States, how basically they gave them the ultimatum that this mega huge platform that's used by billions of people had to be sold to some sort of conglomeracy with the CIA intelligence and the FBI and security apparatus that basically want to dictate and control TikTok and take over the means of it, which is one of the reasons why TikTok is being banned on top of APEC and top of the Israeli-Hamas conflict, so on and so forth. It was eventually going to happen that they were going to ban TikTok. But now it looks like Canada is now next in role to consider having it banned nationwide. Although they're not saying it's a ban, they're suggesting it by already fear-mongering people towards it. So, like this article from the CBC, this is saying intelligence chief warns Canadians that China could use TikTok to spy on them. CSIS director, that's the Intelligence Board of Canada, director says data gleaned from popular app is available to the government of China. Now, if you've been watching this channel and you've been following through the articles of TikTok and why it's being banned, why exactly this is being, you know for a fact this has nothing to do with Chinese surveillance. This has nothing to do with China. TikTok is not a Chinese-controlled governance system spying on individuals. We know that TikTok has algorithms in the United States. We know that the CEO is from Singapore. They even had him at Congress to confess all this to you, and they still won't believe it. It has nothing to do with China. You know, they even banned TikTok in China. They don't even have this application in China. They have to construct their own. So why exactly would it be a surveillance tool of the Chinese Communist Party when they had to create their own application because they didn't like TikTok? Because just like the United States, just like Canada, just like around the world, they fear this social media application because other than Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, Reddit, they don't have control of this. They don't have control, which means they don't have control of the narrative. And they're terrified that word is going to get out. People are going to express their opinions, express ideas, express concerns, and maybe harsh criticisms of the oligarchy that's trying to suppress this. So this goes into, from the Epoch Times, Trudeau says Canadians should listen to CSIS on TikTok risks, but no plans for a ban. So this is why I kind of get a little more frustrated and aggravated with our government than the United States. Because, a lot of the United States, you could talk corruption for days. You could talk about how extensive their policies are, how horrific it is. But one thing I give credit to the United States and the White House is that they're direct. If they want to ban TikTok, they just announce they're going to ban TikTok. Like it's basically direct as they can. Whereas Canada, we kind of lean in this opposite direction. We kind of go around the bush a few times. We kind of, codify people by saying like, oh, no, it's not really censorship. We're just trying to enforce more Canadian content. We're trying to do this. We're trying to do that. It just happens to be part of this measure. And just like go through this cycle, the mental gymnastics to do the worst. And that, I think, is more sinister. I think that's more sinister to do the mental gymnastics, try to fool people into these policies than just being upfront and honest. Like, you don't like TikTok. TikTok's revealing a lot. You think it's some sort of Chinese plot and you want it banned. Like, that's all you have to say. So in the article, it says, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says, although the government is not considering a ban on the social media app TikTok, Canadians should heed the warnings from the country's intelligence director. We lean heavily on CSIS and our intelligence agencies to keep Canadians safe. Yeah, right. When the director of CSIS is pointing out that TikTok poses a real threat to the data security of Canadians, I think Canadians need to listen, Mr. Trudeau said. during an unrelated news conference in Winnipeg on May 17th. The Prime Minister's comments come after Canadian Security Intelligence Services Director David Vingal warned in a CBC interview that data from TikTok is available to the government of China. Yeah, as opposed to the ArriveCam app, so they could take all your personal data towards them and the government of Canada, so they can track down and trace you and put authoritarian measures to lock you down and arrest you during the COVID pandemic, during the COVID fear mongering that they now want to enforce now. You know, it's just trying to figure out who's going to track you, right? We don't want China surveillancing on you. That's our job. That's our job. That's our business. Get them away from us. My answer as director of the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, is that there is very clear strategy on part of the government of China to be able to acquire personal information from anyone around the world. Again, this is so aggravating about this is that every single company does this already. Every single social media platform on the internet already does this. Private companies do this regardless. They take your data and then governments or intelligence services, they either blackmail them or bribe them or try to convince them to sell off that data to them so they can manipulate you. So this idea that like, oh, TikTok is, putting data to the China or whatever, like it's already happening. It's already happening whether you're on TikTok or not, whether you're on social media or not, whether you're even on the internet or not. They're going to track and monitor you no matter what it takes, because that is how devious these agencies are. They don't care. They don't care about ethics. They don't care about quality. They don't care about security. They don't care about any of it. Your personal data is their greatest asset because then they own you. Then they can manipulate and blackmail you to do whatever they want to do to you. As an individual, I would like to say I would absolutely not recommend someone have TikTok. Mr. Trudeau noted that TikTok has been banned from government devices since 2023. So that was the big headline there, that anyone who was in public office was not allowed to have TikTok. That was a ban that was already in place in 2013 that they announced. But again, I feel like that was a precursor to what's eventually going to happen, which is probably going to be a nationwide ban. Because let's face it, APEC is getting control of the Canadian government. They know that there's videos out there contradicting the genocide rhetoric. They know that they're contradicting the global lobby groups. They know they're contradicting the World Economic Forum. They know they're contradicting the Trudeau government. And they feel threatened. They feel threatened, so that's why they need to ban it. And here's what he even had to say in a news conference here about TikTok.
This director, David Vignon, is warning Canadians against using TikTok in light of his comments and what he knows about how it operates. Do you think TikTok is safe for Canadians, and do you see a role for government in regulating TikTok?
Well, obviously, as a government, we lean heavily on CSIS and our intelligence agencies to keep Canadians safe. And when the director of CSIS is pointing out that TikTok poses a real threat to the data security of Canadians, I think Canadians need to listen. Obviously, we already took measures as a government to ensure that all federal computers and phones do not have the TikTok app applied to them. That's a risk that we don't want for our government, but I know more organizations and orders of governments are looking at that very seriously as well. We need to continue to have a conversation.
And again, that's another thing to point out about this too, is that the Trudeau government has already had intertwinings with the Chinese government and the Chinese oligarchs when it came to their charities, when it came to donations to the Trudeau Foundation. So they didn't even need TikTok. They didn't even need TikTok. They don't need social media to get advancements in their government or agendas passed or some sort of information on people. It's already happening, folks. It's already happening regardless. So them trying to ban TikTok is them trying to suppress information on you. They don't want people to be informed. They don't want people to know. And because there's no way to control the narrative as much as they can, they need to eliminate it. They need to eliminate TikTok and eliminate people from expressing those ideas.
With Canadians about how they remain safe online. Yes, there's a role for government, and we'll continue to consult and work with Canadians on that. It's important that we empower Canadians to make smarter choices about keeping themselves and their families safe online. That's one of the reasons why we're moving forward with an Online Harms Act focused on keeping kids safe and making sure that our online...
Yeah. Poor choice of an example right there. We're doing everything we can to make sure Canadians have the choice to feel safe. That's what he just said earlier. And then he resorts to an example of the Harms Act, which is the new bill they're trying to pass to suppress people and suppress content on the internet. So basically, you don't have the choice. That's what he's saying. You know, you don't have the choice. We're going to dictate what people are seeing, what information gets out, what you're allowed to see, what you're allowed to consume, and we're doing it on the behest of your safety. But it's your choice. And it's all for the kids. I love how he adds that. It's all for the kids. It's for the children's safety. Like, they gave a crap about kids to begin with. We saw that when it came to the pandemic, when they're, reopening, closing down schools, and kids were getting, more anxious and, very much deep, darkening thoughts because they were locked in their house. They couldn't, hang out with their friends. Now all of a sudden they care about children's safety. Give me a break. So that was an absurd take from the Prime Minister. He knows that he's hiding something. He knows that, well, I can't announce that it's going to be a ban, but we're suggesting it's going to be a ban. It's getting into that direction there. And here's what opposition member Pierre Poilievre also had to say about TikTok.
It is Justin Trudeau that has put Mr. Johnson in this terrible situation by naming a member of the China-financed Trudeau Foundation to perform this role of looking into Beijing's interference in our election campaigns. That was Justin Trudeau's error in judgment, and all of this points to him covering up the truth because he's afraid that Canadians will find out how he failed to stand up for our interests and instead stood up for his own.
So the fact that the Chinese government, alongside Justin Trudeau, is actually teaming up to go against TikTok disproves the theory that China is spying through TikTok. They're actually angry. They're more angry at this app. They're also pissed off. Like I said, they banned this in China. They banned TikTok for a reason in China, just like they did with the United States. They're banning this because this is a social media application away from the means of the intelligence board and agencies that already have dictation control over the rest of social media, over the rest of the big tech companies. And it allows for people to actually express their ideas, which is kind of what social media was supposed to be in the first place, in theory. So, but I know that even Pierre Poilievre, yes, he did say what we wanted to hear, but I'm pretty sure Pierre Poilievre is also on the same boat. I'm pretty sure that people don't want, word to get out about his corruption and stuff within his government. So, again, this is a coordinated effort. This is all coordinated. They definitely want this intact. And I want to show also this as an example of why TikTok, out of all applications, seems to be this dominating force of whether it be allowed for people to use. So this guy brings up the Indian government banned TikTok, WeChat, etc., and instead allowed the empire of spying to dominate India's marketplace. Will the Five Eyes surveillance of India diplomats in Canada now open to India's wisdom eye every American hardware and software tools to spy, yes, even in India? Microsoft, Google, Cisco, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, hard drives on your computer, Intel chips, Apple iPhones. Just because Google and Microsoft have Indian CEOs doesn't stop those apps from spying on all Indian politicians, bureaucrats, and businessmen. All these Indian executives must agree to the globalist rules before they get promoted. India's first priority now should be to develop indigenous technologies to replace all these foreign tech products. So this is another thing that they will never address on why TikTok is the top of the list of why it needs to be banned. Because they want these other competitors, they want Microsoft, Facebook, and others to intervene more. They want to take down TikTok, take down their arch nemesis, their competitor, to advance their surveillance, to advance their spying technologies into the lives of everyday people. And since they already have dominating control of all the other countries in the world, now's the opportunity, and also the side with AIPAC and the Israel lobby, now's the perfect time to now mention TikTok, how awful it is, and scare people into disabling it and restricting people from their abilities to use a social media application, even though they have the choice of security. So here's just some examples of this. This is different publications that have already admitted to how other tech companies are already doing surveillance on you. So the fact that they say that, China is this only country that's doing surveilling, or Russian spies. No. We have spies already that have been spying around the world and conveying and blackmailing for so many years. They're losing power. They're losing touch. The oligarchy is dying, and that is why TikTok is their worst nightmare, because ordinary people are using TikTok to spread information, to spread vital information about important stuff that's going on that they don't want people to know. They don't want people to be knowledgeable about the horrific mess that they're in right now. So here's an example. Secret program gives NSA, FBI backdoor access to Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft data. So they already have your information. They already have control of you. Whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on any of these platforms. Here's another one. Ex-NSA chief backs Apple on iPhone backdoors. Your hard drives were riddled with NSA spyware for years. How new Intel CPUs, that's computer processors, have NSA exploitable secret hidden backdoor. So even if you're not on social media per se, let's say, for example, you never had a Facebook account. You've never done Instagram. You've never tweeted anything. You don't have any of those accounts whatsoever. You're completely away from social media. They will still track you down. You ever notice all those cameras that are in downtowns and metropolitan areas? That's also tracking surveillance. That's also gathering information. All this AI that's being put out, that's also tracking information. Now they're, getting into bank accounts of people so they can track and monitor where you're spending your money. They're blackmailing huge banks right now to give up the identities of their clients. During COVID, we saw that with the truckers. They were trying to dismantle bank accounts of individual Canadians. So this is how they track, control, and monitor you constantly and put you into line. And if you don't stay within that line, they have 9 ways Sunday. As Chuck Schumer always said on MSNBC to the president, to President Donald Trump at the time, you have 9 ways Sunday to be tracked down by the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA if you get out of the way. If you step outside the line, they have 9 ways Sunday to take you down. And that is what they're doing. That is all this is doing, is trying to cultivate as much data from you as possible. So you don't have privacy. You're being exploited by them, and then they can dictate over you because they have information on you. This is how evil this gets, folks. And We saw what happened with the United States and their TikTok ban. Now it's coming around, folks. Now it's coming to our territory. And beware, be informed, and make sure that you know about this before it's too late. Because if we don't stop authoritarian measures from censoring people's free speech, whether even if it's people you don't like, if you don't protect their right of free speech, they're going to be coming after you. And then who's going to stand up for your speech? That's why it's a principled effort. That's why it's principled to protect free speech, no matter who that person is. This is brought to you by Ground News, the versatile news app and website that gathers all the world's media on one place and allows users to compare coverage. Ground News gives you the access of thousands of sources worldwide, allows you to see the media blind spots, and even gives analysis on the bias and factuality of those stories. Weave your way through the mainstream narratives, the corporate lies, and have total access to find complete information that you deserve. Click on the link below and get 15% off a subscription. Be critical, be informed, be ground.